Hey everybody, I am chip tuning it this morning because sometimes you just gats to. I wanted to make a quick video in light of what happened this past Wednesday. I know that many, if not all of you, have heard about the shooting that happened in Mattoon, and let's admit that was close to home, right? And I'm sure that some of you have feelings of anxiety or even fear because of something like this, and I just wanted to talk about that and address that. And I wanted to remind you that God is in control. Even when it doesn't seem like it, God is in control. I wanted to share a verse with you. This is from Psalm 46:1. It says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in times of trouble. And remember that even when it doesn't seem like God is in control, He is still in control. He allows things like this to happen. Why? Well, because we're sinners, and because God has given us free will. Man has the free will to choose to do evil, and God doesn't always stop that. Free will is actually a huge responsibility that God has given man, and we need to remember that. And that's why we need to make wise decisions, and we need to seek His will and His guidance in our lives, because left to ourselves, we just make a mess of things. But remember that God is still in control. And also, I wanted to share with you Philippians 4 verses 4 verses 6 and 7. This is one of my favorite passages. It says, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. I wanted to remind you of that. If you have any anxiety, if you have any fear, anything, take it to the Lord. The peace of God which surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Take those things to the Lord. Prayer is always an important weapon. It's actually the best weapon we have. It really is. One of the other things I wanted to say is, how should we respond when something like this happens? What can we do? I mean, a lot of times we can't do anything physically, but we can pray. And like I just said, prayer is our most effective, most important weapon. And so I would just encourage you, stop and say a prayer. Say a prayer for the victims. Many are often wounded in these situations. Pray for their healing. Pray for their families. You can pray for comfort. And one of the things I like to pray about is salvation. God could use these things, as horrible as they are, God can use them to bring people to Himself. And that's so important. So I would encourage you to pray for those things. And you know what? Pray for the shooter. Absolutely pray for the shooter. They need Jesus. That's that. I mean, obviously they need Jesus. That's one of the things that led them to this. I mean, we can't always answer all the questions as to why a person would do this. I know you guys have heard a lot of the statistics that bullying leads to this kind of behavior, and I'm certain that that's definitely one of the things that leads to that. Broken families can lead to this kind of behavior. Certain forms of mental illness can lead to this kind of behavior. But you know what? Ultimately, it's sin. The truth of the matter is we're all broken. We're just broken in different ways. And it's all tragic. And none of that is an excuse. We are all responsible for our own actions. Definitely, if there's bullying that's happened, the bullies are responsible for their actions. But the shooter's also responsible for their actions. Nobody made them do that. They chose to do that. And I'm not speaking discompassionately. I'm speaking the truth. At the same time, I love those who have been hurt, and I love those who are doing the hurting. And I pray that Jesus uses this to get a hold of their lives. So I would just encourage you, stop and say a prayer for those involved when something like this happens, when you hear about these sort of things. And if you do have any fear or anxiety, again, just remember that God is in control. Repeat some of those verses to yourself, and I hope that helps. If you always have any questions, I am here, guys. I love y'all. Certainly, there's others, your parents would be happy to ask any questions, and I just hope you guys are having a great day. So, love y'all.